Mike Evans, it just isn't connecting. I mean, whether it be the week before where Mike Evans was wide open down the middle of the field and just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Whether it's the back shoulder throw that doesn't seem to be working anymore, or just a lack of a connection, which was such a big part of their offense for the last couple of years. So
was that one big completion where Tom Brady squeezed it in like between 3 defenders to Mike Evans on the sideline, and it was absolutely beautiful. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, nothing's really working for them, and they got a ton of injuries, and they lose Shaq Barrett last night in the middle of the game. He has to get carted off. He was all over Lamar Jackson in the first quarter. So that was really a body blow for the Buccaneers. But really what this shows me last night is what we've been talking about the NFC again. Is like, that's a team that's just not good right now. And the Packers, until they turn it around, is a team that's just not good right now.
Well, the difference for the Packers and the Bucs is the Packers are in the NFC North, where there are the Vikings 5-1. The Bucs are in a division where they could have a losing record and make it into the playoffs.
Right. And now anything can happen. Team can get hot. What were the Rams last year, 7-5 or 7-6, whatever they were, and then ended up going on a run and winning the Super Bowl. So it could happen for the Buccaneers. It's just right now that does not look like a football team that is ready to turn it around. And obviously there's a lot going on in Tom Brady's life. But, you know, this is why every single win now for the New York Giants, every time that they get closer, 6-1, maybe 7-1 if they beat the Seahawks, it's like, you know, I mean, this is a team that could get the freaking 2 seed in the NFC.
It's unbelievable when you think about it.
And have multiple home playoff games.
Do you realize that there's one game this week that features 2 teams over 500, and that's it?
Yeah.
There's one game this week in the NFL that features 2 teams over 500. What's that game, Al Dukes?
He just did cool games.
I think I'm gonna go Seahawks Giants.
You're right. That's the only game that features
that, by the way.
Right. The parity is ridiculous.
In a week where the Sunday night game is Packers Bills. Who had that? And the Thursday night game is Bucks Ravens. And you have the one game with 2 teams over 500 being the Seahawks and the Giants.
I mean, with the exception, you know, of the Bengals, the Bills, maybe I won't say the Ravens because they didn't make the playoffs last year. The Bengals, the Bills, and the Chiefs are the 3 teams that have kind of lived up or started to live up to their building. I mean, the Chiefs and the Bills have. I mean, right out of the gate, both of those teams were good. The Bengals, it took a while to get going, but now they are going. But then they're going to lose Jamar Chase now for at least 4 weeks with a hip injury. So that is a huge part of their offense, and they play Monday night against the Browns. So it'd be interesting to see how that manifests itself moving on. But it's almost like talking about the Jets. Okay, it's not who they've played; it's when they played them and what kind of condition is that team in when the Jets have played them.
And they got another one of those that's positive for them this week.
They do. They have a team that's coming in that has the second most turnovers in the NFL. It's unbelievable that a Bill Belichick team leads the league second in the league in turnovers behind the Saints. So the Saints have 16 total turnovers, and the New England Patriots have 15 total turnovers.
Well, they got 2 quarterbacks that don't know how to play, so that's really the problem.
I'm not going to sit here and say that Mac Jones doesn't know how to play. He knows how to play.
He's not well.
Dude, he led his team to the playoffs.
It was more the team around him and the coach.
He hasn't even played. I mean, has he even played 20 games, 21 games?
Yeah, I don't like him.
We got to give him like 50 games.
I don't have to.
I know you don't have to,
but I could close the book on him if I'd like.
As a paid analyst of the NFL, I'd like to be a little bit less, harsh on these kids and give them a chance to learn the position and figure it out. Like Daniel Jones, it's taken him a while to figure it out, and he's got the right coach. Mac Jones was pretty damn good under Josh McDaniels. He's learning now under Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Okay, so these are defensive coaches. These are coaches that I don't think in their history have ever coached or called plays on the offense.
Yeah.
So there's a transition period that happens under those circumstances.
Let me tell you something. If Mac Jones outplays Zach Wilson this week, that's going to piss me off.
It's going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Zach's going to have his best game.
Jets have got a problem at right tackle, dude.
I know. They've had a problem at right and left tackle the entire year, man.
Well, not left tackle. I mean, as long as
they did.
They fixed the left tackle part.
They had Connor McDermott out there for a game and a half, for Christ's sakes, and they just cut him. So they did have a problem there. So, I mean, they've had issues the entire year on the offensive line, and they're 5-2. I'm telling you, Zach's going to play well this week.
Okay. I would love for that to be the case.
Yeah.
But, he's got 1 touchdown pass this year.
I know.
He's got nothing going on offensive line-wise.
He's
nothing.
due. Hell, they could run the ball pretty well, and the offensive line has something to do with that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I didn't mean offensive line. He's got nothing really passing game-wise going on. There's not. I mean, the passing game is, I feel, with the players that they have, it should be a lot better than it is. And, you know, the Bears have a better passing game than the Jets have right now.
Yeah, it's brutal, but I really think there's a lot of room for improvement, and it starts this week.
Yeah, well, when
and there's weapons there and everything, and everybody's talking about the offensive line, so they're going to step up, play well, give him some more time. He had that miserable game last week where he's spinning around and doing all this crazy stuff. You know that the coaching staff hammered that into his head this week.
I hope so.
That's not going to happen again. I don't know. I just, whatever I say, someone's going to be pissed off about it, because if I say that Zach Wilson's going to have a good game, I'm putting the mush on him. If I'm negative going into this game against the Patriots, people say, how could you be negative about the Jets? So I'm just telling you right now, I don't want to hear it from anybody if the Jets don't play well. It's not my fault, God damn it. But they are going to play really well, and Zach's going to play well.
Stop with the paranoia.
I know.
I mean, honestly.
I can't do it. I can't pick anything right.
Just reading into too much Twitter crap and the sewer pit that is social media. You got to stop all that
It's not so
nonsense.
much that. It's just like everybody else.
It's not everybody. It's not me.
I just can't, you know.
It's not Al. It's not Eddie. We don't really
these
care
guys are my friends, you know.
Yeah, but we don't care what you say. That's fine. You got it. You got an opinion. Give it.
I know. But I can't pick anything in the NFL this year. Terrible.
All right.
Absolutely awful.
Well, then hammer yourself then.
Yeah, I have been hammering myself. That's what I do. I love to self-loathe. Let's talk about young Joker.
Oh, okay.
He gets traded yesterday. I love the idea of young Joker. I told you my dream for him was to be on a float down the Canyon of Heroes while they were playing the young Joker music.
This is where you are the mush.
and then he'd hop off at Madison Square Garden to a sellout crowd, and he would perform after the parade. I was all in on young Joker when I saw him, burst off the screen in that Cowboys game last year. I said, man, if this guy ever gets it right, he's going to be the most exciting offensive player that the Giants have had since Odell Beckham Jr. Now, this is when Saquon was not playing well, and he's obviously playing well this year. But the Giants had enough. And Brian Daboll, and if you look into some of the beat writers yesterday, available, toughness, things like that Brian Daboll preaches all the time. The sacrifice for the team. Kadarius Toney was not doing that. And he wasn't on the field. It was always something else. Apparently, he was not getting the treatments that he needed to get back on the field quicker. He just was a pain in the ass for a guy who's not going to deal with pain in the asses. Now, with that being said, and I'm sure that you would agree with this, he gets to Kansas City, he could have himself an amazing career and make a ton of money.
That's true.
So it's not over for him. It's just over for him with the Giants, and that's fine.
And the Giants had to move on from him. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't drafted by, Joe Shane. He was drafted by Dave Gettleman. Everything that Paul Schwartz wrote in his article is absolutely 100% accurate. And I know that. Mm-hmm. And I know that from getting treatment on your hamstrings, being responsible, as a football player, they don't really ask you to do too much. They ask you to show up. They ask you to be on time. They want you to know your assignments. And if you are hurt, they want you to get your treatment. And treatment is a big part of the rehab of staying on the field and being a professional. And if you miss treatment or you think you're healthy and the team doesn't think you're healthy, then you're going to be bitching, complaining about it. And in one of the articles that I think Paul Schwartz wrote was, he thinks he's healthy. The Giants are getting ready to go on a bye. If you're unhealthy, you're going to have to stay behind and you're going to have to do your treatments.
And he refused to do that.
Well, most likely they were predicting that he was going to.
Well, no, I think that he flat out said it in the article.
I'm healthy.
That he wasn't going to do that.
Right. So his focus was not really on the New York Giants. I don't believe. And I think that they recognize that, and they recognize that, look, even for a team that needs wide receivers, I think Wan'Dale Robinson has really, caught their eye. That's how I feel. Maybe this kind of opens up a slot for Kenny Golladay if he can get back on the field after the bye. And who knows what we'll see at that point, because you'll have a much more confident quarterback throwing the ball down the field, and maybe Kenny Golladay will see some more balls his way. I don't know. That's what I'm assuming. But this particular situation with Kadarius Toney is everything that you And I and everybody who covers the NFL would think that it is, that internally he wasn't doing what he was being asked to do. And it's not that hard. It's relatively simple. And every now and again, you run into a player that just has no self-awareness, has no understanding of what the responsibilities are, doesn't understand what the coach wants from him because maybe he's been placated his entire life. And he's been able to do whatever he's wanted to do
based on his talent.
Life.
Yeah,
based on his talent. Right. So, look, Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are like, guys, let's just move on. Let's just move on. It's a better way to move on. It's a guy that wasn't going to help us anyway, and it's become nothing but a problem for all different reasons. And they did him a favor, by the way.
Oh, of course.
They did him a major favor by sending him to Kansas City. If he is bitching and complaining about getting traded to Kansas City, and I'm sorry, then the problem truly is him.
Well, he's not doing that. I mean, he was all about Chiefs Kingdom yesterday on social media and tweeted out his jersey and everything else. So he seems like he's very fired up about
if he can
being a Kansas City Chief.
If he can't get it right with Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and Patrick Mahomes, he'll never get it right. I mean, most of the guys that go there, whether from Tyreek Hill to McCole Hardman, to all the guys that have played with Patrick Mahomes, they've all benefited from playing in that offense under that coach and with that quarterback. If this guy can't do it, then it's definitely on him.
Yeah, and Brian Daboll, there's a couple of ways that you can earn respect from a locker room. Obviously, winning in the way that he is the biggest reason, but also you have to practice what you preach. And if Brian Daboll is saying this is what we need from every single player, and then he's making different rules for somebody else, then all of a sudden you lose the trust in the locker room. That's why I think it's a big deal. That's why I think it's a big deal with him getting traded. Like, you can't have this guy around acting like this when everybody else put their hands in the pile.
Unless that player's name's Lawrence Taylor, and then, if you're Bill Parcells, you do have a different set of rules for a guy who shows up on Sunday just completely wrecks the other team's game, right. No matter where he is and what he's doing.
Well, maybe if Kadarius Toney was actually on the field and producing, that some of this stuff would have been different, but he wasn't. I mean, he wasn't available. He had both hamstrings as a problem. He had to have knee surgery in the offseason. It was a mess.
Well, that was that's part of the issue. Your availability, the ability to be available is very important. Mm-hmm. And, they will overlook some shortcomings if you are productive on the field. It's production versus tolerance, as Bill Cowher has told me a million times. And I think the tolerance part of it with the Giants, within the Giants, got to a point where they just couldn't handle it anymore. And the other thing, too, is, the players are not idiots. The players know that there's a guy that's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And as much as they may admire or like him, like his music, like who he is, like how they probably love how he presents himself. They probably think he's a funny guy, whatever. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's about production and doing what everybody else has to do. And if he's not doing that, then this is a great trade by the Giants. They get 2 draft picks back. It's unfortunately it didn't work out. They wanted Jalen what's his name?
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith. They wanted Devontae Smith. The Eagles maneuvered up in front of them in the draft to get Devontae Smith, and this was the leftover, if you will.
Oh yeah, exactly. They were desperate to get a playmaker in the first round. They wanted Devontae Smith. The Cowboys end up trading with the Eagles, which is nuts to think about, to get Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith has had a great start to his career, and the Giants were left with young Joka, and young Joka is now gone. Now, I do wonder if they flip a pick 2 or 2 now because they have more draft capital to go out and get another wide receiver that they really like.
Or a tight end.
Yeah, and by the way, Jerry Jeudy, his freshman year, his offensive coordinator
Brian Daboll.
Was Brian Daboll.
Yes.
Which is something I didn't know until after the show yesterday when we were bringing up Jerry Jeudy. So,
and that still could be the case. So we're looking at November 1st. We've got about 3 days?
Yep.
4 days left. And listen, there's going to be more movement. I mean, there is definitely an arms race going on, whether it be, the defensive lineman, Robert Quinn from the Bears to the Eagles, Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers. I mean, James Robinson to the Jets. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still going to be more trades here, I feel like. And there are teams out there like Green Bay. See, I'm thinking that Kansas City may have called up for Elijah Moore.
And Jets weren't going to trade him.
The Jets are not going to trade him. They like Elijah Moore. They really do. And they still think that he is a guy that can play a big part in this offense. But I don't know. It's just it's like the Giants. I felt like the Chiefs were looking for somebody that had speed and explosiveness.
Well,
and we all know that Kadarius Toney has that. The question, like, you have to find that team that not only has the disgruntled wide receiver, but the team is questioning the wide receiver's dedication to the team. And that's where I think the Chiefs identified this issue with Toney and the Giants, which they did a good job by identifying the issue. Now the question is, can they get that player to become that explosive player that Dave Gettleman saw at Florida?
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.